evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of Race 12 of Season 59 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. Here under the lights from Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. I'm Seth Cole. Great to be back here in the booth, ready to cover playoff race number 3. As last week, we whittled it down from our original 13 drivers to our Elite 8. That move on to the second round, 2 races tonight and Talladega next week to determine the final 4, to find out who's going to, after the following 2 races, hoist the championship trophy. But it all begins here tonight, as these drivers will look for an automatic ticket into the final 4. You win, you're in.
Drivers,
the non-playoff driver goes to victory lane, then it may come down to points heading into our next elimination race next week. 33 drivers going to take the green flag here tonight. And we'll be talking about the 8 drivers remaining championship-wise, as well as giving you guys a little bit of a recap of what happened last week, since we were unable to bring you coverage of that elimination race here on FRN. But trucks gritting up on the pit road. Brian Rawson is going to capture the pole position here tonight via the random qualifying draw. He's going to be alongside of Chris Emery. Looks like we had a driver that may have missed the grid here, so they'll grid back up again.
Drivers,
Joe DeSpirito and Bob
cars.
Dixon, they're going to make up row number 2. Mike Rogers, Cy Jones in row 3. Row 4 finds Wiley Coate, and our highest starting playoff driver will roll off on the outside of row 4 at 8th, and that is Bob Seminara. Grant Wesley, who moved on to the round of 8, he'll roll off 9th alongside of Jerem Lewis. Donnie Garrett, he's going to share row number 6 with Craig Hagley. Donnie, one of the 5 drivers that was eliminated in last week's elimination race. Robbie Nisus joins Jeremy Jeffries, the 3-time winner, back on row 7. We've documented about Jeremy Jeffries. All 3 of his victories have taken place here this season at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. He is one of the remaining drivers battling for the championship, as is Terry Bombard, who's going to be 15th off the grid alongside of Tim Nofsker. Nofsker eliminated last week, as was JT Mayhew, who will share row number 9 with Doug Hulick. And the top 20 will be completed by Dave Melson and Jeff Crivello. Josh Metallic, he was eliminated last week as well. He's going to roll off in 21st alongside of last week's winner, Rodney Sullins, which advanced him into the round of 8. Row 12 going to find Glenn Harris and Jim Glaude. Row 13 with Ken Roberts and Richard Martin. I think Brian Rawson may be voluntarily going to the back, as we're going to grid up again. I left off, I believe, at row 13 with
Drivers,
Roberts and Martin. Row 14 will be Bernie Mobbs. He moved on to the round of 8 last week, as did Brian Schilling. They're going to share that 14th row together. Row 15 going to be Mark Paglia and Chuck McClure. McClure was eliminated last week, as was Kelly Causey, who will roll off in the 31st position, the 2-time winner. Jessica Shelton will be 32nd, and Bobby Farrell will complete the 33 truck field here tonight. So if you weren't able to gather it based off of that starting grid rundown, your remaining 8 drivers here in this second round of the playoffs are Jeremy Jeffries, Brian Schilling, Rodney Sullins, Terry Bombard, Bob Seminara, Greg Palmer, Grant Wesley, and Bernie Mobbs. 18 points separate all 8 of those drivers here in this first race of the second round, and Greg Palmer could find himself in a must-win situation heading into next week due to the fact that he is not going to be getting very good points this evening, not being in tonight's starting lineup. The 5 drivers that were eliminated last week: Tim Nofsker, JT Mayhew, Donnie Garrett, Chuck McClure, Kelly Causey, and Josh Metallic. I was incorrect. There were 6 drivers that were actually eliminated, not 5. We end up having 2 drivers that finished outside of the top 10 with victories, or top 12 with victories at the end of the regular season. So it was actually 14 drivers, not 13 drivers, that were in the championship hunt a couple of weeks ago when the playoffs began. So you saw Brian Rawson peel down to the bottom, taking the voluntary EOL. Still gets credit for the pole, but Joe DeSpirito will be the one that will lead us to the green. Spirito still looking for that first victory on the season, missed out on the playoffs. Spent a good portion of the first half of the regular season down outside the top 30 in points. Back when we had the full fields over full field sizes. Joe DeSpirito was just barely above the cut line or the cut line driver that was able to make it in to the starting lineup via points. And no pressure really on the 24 now, with no championship hanging over him. So we'll see if maybe he can go coast to coast here tonight. His best finish so far this season, second place. And he's done that twice, most recently last week to Rodney Sullins at Talladega. 66 laps of racing here tonight at BSR, the track where last season all the elimination races and the championship were determined. Flip-flop this season when we had the addition of another regular season races. Now BSR kind of sets the stage. Talladega finishes it off, and we'll see what kind of storylines BSR is going to give us here tonight, heading into the elimination race from the Elite Eight to the Final Four next week. But Chevrolet of Joe DeSpirito, the Ford F-Series of Chris Emery, that are going to bring us down here through the long tri-oval, heading towards the restart zone. Flagman has the flag in hand, and the green flag is now waving over the hoods of the field here for playoff race number 3 of season 59. Saw that late green. That was because the pole sitter Brian Rawson dropped to the back. He was waiting until he approached the start-finish line. Okay, everybody clean here on the start and should be able to settle in. Last week's race at Talladega took a long time before the first caution came out. They got through a round of green flag pit stops, though there were some incidents that occurred, but didn't happen up on the racing surface. Let's see if these drivers can make it to the first round of green flag pit stops potentially here tonight. Seeing a lot of drivers on my telemetry that received black flags on that restart. Those will all get cleared. That's due in part to that late green that we saw fly. But the 21 was the pole sitter, so the sim waits until the pole sitter gets to the start-finish line. Since he was way at the back, it waited a long time to throw the green flag. So kind of got things a little bit shuffled up here at the front, but should be able to get through it cleanly. The admins do a great job here in making sure that the black flags are all cleared in a timely fashion. And yeah, that time when they actually crossed around past the start-finish line, all the black flags had already been cleared. So kudos to the admin team. Joe DeSpirito with help from Wiley Coat up there on the outside line. Donnie Garrett moving into third. Side by side between a couple of playoff drivers. That's for the 6th position. Grant Wesley on the bottom. Bob Seminara up on the top. If you can't win your way into the Final Four here tonight, you certainly want to get a good points night, so that way you don't have a lot of pressure going into Talladega next week. You suffer a DNF here tonight, you could be in the same kind of position as Greg Palmer, who's not even in the field. Could be heading into Talladega in a must-win situation if you're going to advance into the Final Four, as Donnie Garrett moves down to the inside line. Now remember, for a number of the drivers that ended up not advancing into this round of 8, a lot of them ended up missing the first playoff race. Donnie Garrett, Josh Metallic, Kelly Causey amongst them. So they ended up practically going into last week's elimination race almost in a must-win situation, and none of them, I believe, finished inside of the top 15. I believe Josh Metallic finished out of the race. Kelly Causey finished very low on the running order, as did Donnie Garrett. As a matter of fact, I can bring that up here and we can take a look. Metallic finished 29th out of 34 cars. Donnie Garrett finished 21st, and Kelly Causey finished in 18th. That was not enough for any of those drivers to be able to advance. The other 2 drivers that didn't advance, Tim Nofsker, or the other 3 drivers I should say, Tim Nofsker, Chuck McClure, and JT Mayhew. We saw JT get involved in an incident quite late in the first playoff race. Last week did not go any better for him, as he finished a couple of laps down out of the race in 28th. For Chuck McClure, he ended up last week finishing in 30th. That dropped him outside of the top 8 in points and failed to advance him to the next round. And then the other driver that was eliminated in Tim Nofsker, he ended up finishing 9th in last week's race, which was great. But the week prior, he ended up finishing damaged off the pace in 23rd and was not able to get enough points to be able to make his way into the round of 8. As a matter of fact, it was quite close between him and Bernie Mobbs for that final transferee spot into this round of 8, as we are 3 wide, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows deep here. Drivers, I was saying, maybe we could get to that first round of green flag pit stops, but these drivers don't look like they want to get to that point. And we ended up seeing this back in the first playoff race when we had our 14 playoff drivers the first time here at BSR. The aggressive nature in the early going, and I remember talking to some of the drivers that finished on the podium at the conclusion, did you expect to see this level of aggression in a race that wasn't necessarily an elimination race, but an opportunity to lock yourself into the next round? And they said, absolutely. Absolutely, we felt we were going to have this type of a race, and we're kind of seeing it here. It is an orderly 3 wide. We're not seeing a whole lot of pinching and door banging, but it's super speedway racing. One little mistake, one errant bump, and it could have catastrophic results. And remember what I said, last thing we want to do is be going into next week's race at Talladega in a must-win situation because you suffered a DNF here tonight at Burt Screwdrivers Raceway. Joe DeSpirito, his number 24, has been out in front for the 3 completed circuits. Donnie Garrett has now slotted into second. Chris Emery in front of Brent Wesley there, 3rd and 4th, and Robbie Knightsless right now completing the top 5. Good early run there for driver 54, the Fred Jones paint scheme there. Terry Bombard currently in the 6th position, battling with Wiley Coe for that spot, one of our playoff drivers. JT Mayhew, Josh Metallic right behind him, a couple of drivers that were eliminated from the playoffs. Right now you've only got 3 playoff contenders up inside of the top 10, that being Wesley, Bombard, and Seminaros, trying to hang on to that 10th position right now on the top side behind the 7 of Cy Jones. Good run there for the Sunoco Chevrolet out of the gate. Cy started this race from the 6th position and is still up inside of the top 10. Last time by scored in 8th. See if anybody's been making some quick moves through the field after starting towards the tail. Chuck McClure looks like he would be one of those drivers, as he is up around the 18th position, and he rolled off the grid from 30th. We're making some quick work, our winner from the season opener. One driver in the field here tonight that might look slightly different, you might not be able to pick him out all that easily, would be the 3-time winner. All 3 of those victories taking place here at Burt Screwdrivers Raceway. That's Jeremy Jeffries leading that 3rd line. Announcement in the last couple of weeks on the Rolling Thunder Gaming Facebook page that Busch Light Beer going to be sponsoring Jeremy Jeffries for the remainder of season 59 and into season 60, not only here in the Tally Challenge, but over in the Bare Bones Racing Series, and maybe carrying over to the other couple of series that run on a weekly basis here in Rolling Thunder Gaming. Moving over from Brian Schilling, getting the showcase of that scheme here tonight. Trying to make his way into the Final 4 of the playoffs. Grant Wesley has jumped up to the top line, and he has gotten alongside of Joe DeSpirito. First challenge for a lap led here. DeSpirito has faced, and did Grant get it? Dorian says he did. By how much, I'm not sure, but it said he led that lap. So that's the first lap that the 24 has not led so far here tonight. Waiting on our ticker to tell me how close that was. 2 1,000s. It looked like 2 1,000s. And here comes Jeffries on the outside line. With a big push from Tim Nostra and Richard Martin, we may be going 3 wide for the lead here in maybe this next corner and into this tri-oval. If that 3rd line can get enough momentum, that'll stack them up 3 wide from the front all the way back about 7, 8 rows deep to the 24th position. Look at Grant. Early block there through the tri-oval, stops the momentum and leads the 3rd line. That was close. Fortunately, he was clear and knew what he was doing, but that could have had catastrophic results if that was mistimed. Now Wiley Coe at midline saying, we've been abandoned. What just happened? And they're starting to go backwards. The momentum on the inside line here down the back straightaway. That's very rare to see. Usually it's the middle and outside line that get that big toe down the back straightaway, but it's the inside line here that's going to propel Joe Despirito back to the point. See if the middle and outside line can charge back here off of turn 4. Doesn't look like it. Wesley's side by side right now, I believe, with Robbie Nice's for 4th. I don't know what it was that stalled out that 3rd lane. Maybe it was Grant moving up in front of it. All of a sudden, they're going backwards. All that momentum is completely gone, and I'm not really sure what dissipated it. They've got the numbers up there. Twice as many trucks up in the 3rd lane than there were in the middle line. Just not sure what it was that killed that momentum. Now you see Wesley, Schilling, and Nofsker have jumped down into the middle groove in front of Wiley Coat. Well, we said that we were going to show you a recap of last week and Rodney Sullivan's victory. Let's take a look at that right now. As Bob Dixon ended up capturing the pole position. Led the field to green. Wouldn't take very long for them to get racy in that one either. Double wide and 3 wide in the first couple of laps. Down the back straightaway here on lap 2, you see Ken Roberts making the move on the inside line, looking to go to the point on Bob Dixon. Got some good help there on that inside line from the 32 of Craig Hagley. Then we take it 3 wide. Through the tri-oval, big run there on the top side. Momentum on the inside line, 3 wide to the line. Bob Seminara leading that field into turn number 1. We would actually get to a round of green flag pit stops here. Our first caution would not come out until much later, but pit road was not without incident. There you see Jeremy Jeffries in a incident there. The 39 of Josh Metallic get hit at some point here. That's Grant Wesley getting turned around. A number of your playoff drivers really had to keep their heads in the game as a caution would not come out for any of those incidents coming to pit road. Here's a look from the aerial view, and there you see the bump, then another bump, and then it was basically just trying to dodge as we got a caution out here live. Keep showing you the recap, and then we'll show you the replay of our first caution of the day. On the live side, looks like Jim Gloud might have been the reason for the first yellow flag, and Mike Rogers as well, smoking coming to pit road. As you're looking at some more of the onboards of the pit road incident, that was on board with Jessica Shelton getting the bump from behind. Here's with Josh Metallic. Almost to his pit stall, then gets hit from behind, and Josh would have to get his truck back all the way back up to his stall. Lost valuable time. Caution would finally come out on lap 35. That was the first caution of the day when Jeremy Jeffries pushes up into the 5 of Wiley Coat, spinning him around. That caution would save a lot of drivers' opportunity of leaving Talladega with a decent finish as on board with the Oreo Chevrolet. You just see him push up into the left rear quarter panel of Wiley Coat. Several drivers were able to stay on the lead lap. Several drivers were able to take the wave around. A couple of drivers got the lucky dog. Green flag would come back out on lap number 40. And we would not see another caution until the very end of the race. There's the contact that led to the final wreck with 2 to go, but it wouldn't end there. Not only would we have that incident over in turns 1 and 2, but then realizing they were racing back to the checkers, some contact between Jessica Shelton and Kelly Causey. Then he goes down to Tim Nofsker, and this was the end result. You can see a number of playoff drivers collected up in this one. JT Mayhew in the 338 was one of them. Kelly Causey obviously in the 00, Grant Wesley in the 88, Novsker in the 088, Bob Seminara in the 712. I believe we had a total of 6 or 7 playoff drivers that were collected up in this last lap. Right there you saw we were focused on Brian Schilling, another playoff driver. Just see as we're on board, there's just nowhere for anyone to be able to go. Nice avoidance right there. And it was Rodney Sullins who would bring it down to the proverbial checkered flag, the white and the caution. And Rodney Sullins would pick up the victory under the yellow flag and capture the win that would advance him into a round of 8. Rodney Sullins, along with 7 other drivers, making their way into the next round. Rodney Sullins would end up being the only driver, one of 2 drivers that won their way into the next round of the playoffs. Of course, the other one was Greg Palmer a couple of weeks ago. As we bring it back to live, let's take a look at what brought out the caution for the first time here tonight, involving Mike Rogers and Jim Glaude. You saw pit stops taking place there as we were showing you the recap from last week, and it looks like Glaude may get a little bit of assistance here from Mark Paglia. There was a big checkup going into turn number 3. Bernie Mobbs in the 31 checking up for Bob Dixon, and saw there was space there from Glaude up to Bernie Mobbs. And unfortunately, when he slowed, Mark Paglia did not. Nowhere for Mike Rogers to go, and some pretty significant damage on the Celsius Dodge of Bernie Mobbs. I would be a little bit concerned about that. Remember, we mentioned he just barely squeaked his way into the round of 8. Maybe the damage not too bad. Didn't hit the wall, he hit the 28 of Paglia, so he might be okay. This wreck has taken Jim Glaude and Mike Rogers out of the race. Focus here on the 011 of Mike Rogers. We saw Smokey making his way back to pit road. Glaude up and over. Somehow that thing was able to drive back to the pits. And Mike Rogers gets his car refired, his truck refired as well, but you can see the roof damage just above the driver's area. There you can see the smoke pouring from beneath the Cracker Barrel Chevrolet Camaro, so tough break there for Mike Rogers and Jim Glaude. Early night for both of those drivers. Terry Bombard's going to get himself a lap-led bonus point. Like he might be coming to pit road. So let's see if we can dial up the driver that went to victory lane last week, since we didn't get an opportunity to give him a victory lane interview. Let's see if we can talk with the driver of the 38, Rodney Sullins. Hey Rodney, Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got a chance to talk?
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
All right, well, unfortunately, we weren't able to call your victory last week, but congratulations on a job well done advancing here into this round of 8. So, a lot of momentum, opportunity tonight to lock yourself into the Final Four. Can you double down?
Man, I'm going to give it a shot. This Black Rifle Coffee Chevrolet's fast. I like my chances. I'm having a good time. Got off to a rocky start there. Fell back to about 30th. Couldn't pick a right line. Then I got going there and got in the high line and missed that. So I'm in 11th now for this restart, so that's good. I like it.
When you started the playoffs, you had 13 other drivers to worry about. Now you only have 7. Does it get easier or harder when the field gets smaller in terms of playoff contenders?
Man, the guys are all talented. You know, you got less people to worry about, but all these guys are so good. You know, there's really nothing's easy in this league. Nothing's easy on Thursday nights.
Plenty of times you've been here to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Here tonight, any particular thing that you focused on that you're going to draw major attention to in your attempt to get maximum points this evening?
Well, I started out thinking I was going to try to stay low and avoid everything, and it just didn't work out for me, and I wound up in the third lane. So everything that I thought I was going to do has already been thrown out the window.
Well, we saw you qualify via the random qualifying mid-pack. You're up there. Looks like you're going to be restarting in 13th, so making your way up there to the front. We're pretty sure we're going to see you up there when it matters the most. Best of luck.
Thanks, Seth. I appreciate it. Give a shout out to my dad. I believe he's watching tonight. So thanks, Seth. Appreciate it. Donnie for what he does to keep this going, and of course RTG and FRN. Thank you, Seth.
Absolutely. Rodney Sullivan's going to officially restart in the 13th position heading into tonight as the defending winner from last week, and of course one of 8 drivers still in the hunt for the championship here in the round of 8 is Tim Nofsker. He's going to be the one to lead us back to green. Joe DeSpirito is going to line up to his outside. Then it's Jeremy Jeffries in 3rd, Donnie Garrett in 4th, Wiley Coate in 5th, then Josh Metallic, Chris Emery, Richard Martin, Doug Kulik, and Kelly Causey will complete the top 10. Our scoring actually just updated. Ronnie will be restarting in the 11th spot. The rest of our playoff contenders, Bernie Mobbs will be 19th, Brian Schilling 22nd, Bob Seminara in 24th, Grant Wesley in 25th, and Terry Bombard, who we saw make that dive to pit road at the 1 to green, in 27th. I might be wrong, but I believe Grant Wesley got a speeding penalty when he came to pit road and subsequently had to drop to the back. Not certain if the same can be said for Bob Seminara, who was also back in the same vicinity, but if that's the case, could be a couple of costly penalties for those 2 playoff drivers, as they were both running up inside of the top 10 prior to that first caution coming out. Tim Nofsker, Joe DeSpirito. Spirito didn't make the playoffs. Tim Nofsker got eliminated last week. Got to make it a little bit easier mentally for a driver that is not any longer in the playoff picture, because then your goal is simple. You're going to go out, get a checkered flag or bust. Trying to get as many checkered flags you can before the conclusion of the season. Don't have to really worry and think about points. So keep an eye here on Tim Nofsker this evening. One of the 6 drivers that was eliminated. Nofsker, a former winner from this season. He won the 3rd race on the year, but that was at Talladega. Spirito with a good push around the outside is going to clear him. Got some help from Donnie Garrett on that effort. Right now, Jeremy Jeffries is the highest running of the playoff drivers, but he's on the bottom 3 wide with Donnie Garrett in the middle, and here comes Demar on the top in the John Deere Chevrolet looking for the top position. Another battle that we're going to have to keep an eye on here tonight that we haven't talked about is the bracket challenge. Our eyes are on the losers side of the bracket, as everything culminating there will eventually determine who the challenger will be for Jeremy Jeffries, the winner on the winner's side of the bracket. Tonight is round 7 of the losers bracket. Jessica Shelton taking on Brian Schilling. Winner of that round will go on to face Joe DeSpirito next week, and then the winner of that will face off against Jeremy Jeffries in a couple of weeks' time. If necessary, go to a rubber match in 3 weeks' time. Well, DeSpirito did edge ahead, but now Nofsker goes back to the point. Richard Martin still in that 3rd line, which appears to be getting a little broken up there. Causey getting a good push from Rodney Sullins, and almost thought about putting Richard Martin in the middle. Jerm Lewis is up there as well. Greg Hagley in the 32, also in that 3rd line, as for a 2nd time tonight, Wiley Coate leading the middle line is not getting the help he needs, and that middle line is going backwards. Now Jeffrey's going to peek out of line. He wants the top position, looking for his first lap lead on the evening. So far here tonight, I believe we've only had 2 of our playoff drivers, of our 8 remaining playoff drivers lead a lap. Grant Wesley has led 1, and Terry Bombard has led 1. Espirito is the only driver that has led double digits tonight, 16 laps led for him. Tim Nofsker has led the next most with 3. Hold on, he'll lead his 4th lap of the night. Top side, you got Kelly Causey, the 2-time winner, buckshot. Rodney Sullivan's right behind him. Ooh, contact I saw up there in that 3rd lane as the 38 shifted up just a little bit. But had some contact from behind by Jerm Lewis. There's Shelton in the 20. Was scored runner-up at the conclusion of last week's race, but received a post-race penalty. Trying to get a good run here tonight, and of course trying to stay ahead of the 4, Brian Schilling, who's in the middle line back there. You can see the square D dodge. Last time by Schilling was scored in 19th. Shelton right now in 7th. As I was going to say, top 7, top 8 single file, but as soon as I think that, Joe DeSpirito jumps out of line. Donnie Garrett's going to go with him. Also Glenn Harris, good run there for the Krispy Kreme Chevrolet. And Cy Jones is still up here inside the top 10. Cy Jones, aggressive here tonight. Picking it out. Emery right in front of him in the 00, starting the outside of the front row. Whoa, okay, we're good. I thought there was some contact being made back there, but that was just a synchronized moving from middle to inside line by Chuck McClure and Brian Schilling. That had all the look of a potential spin via bumper grab there, just the way that both trucks moved down at the exact same time. False alarm there on my end, though. All 31 of our remaining drivers are still up in this lead pack, all up to speed. The only 2 drivers out of the race after our first, and up to this point, only caution. Jim Glaude and Mike Rogers, credited for 32nd and 33rd. We're 3 wide for the lead again. This time, Nofsker on the bottom, Spirito in the middle, and Jeremy Jeffries way up top side. Whoa, we got 1 Portman in the middle of the pack. That's Bernie Mobbs. 7 of Cy Jones looked a little out of shape there on that inside line as well, but we all keep the fenders on it, pointed in the right direction. We're good for the time being. But with the timing of that caution, these drivers were not quite ready to head to pit road for green flag pit stop, so that is going to shift the fuel window a couple of laps earlier, which, according to my calculations, means these drivers would have to stop at least 2 more times. Well, yeah, they would have to stop a maximum of 2 more times before the conclusion of this race. They would not be able to make it the rest of the way on the upcoming pit stop if they run the full fuel amount. Top 4 have gotten themselves cleared now. Battle for 5th is between, I believe that is Terry Bombard on the bottom and Jeremy Jeffries on the top. Terry, like I said, he was 27th on the restart because he came to pit road at the 1 to green, and look where he is. Now up inside of the top 5, well, battling to get into the top 5, and I think he is now into the 5th position with help from the 38 of Dave Melson. So well done there by Terry Bombard. Remember a couple of seasons ago, we kind of called Rodney Sullins the dark horse of the Final 4. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that Terry, I don't remember how many seasons ago it was. I don't have the stat in front of me now. But it was a long time ago that Terry Bombard last made the playoffs here in the Tally Challenge. I don't think he has ever made the Final 4 in the Tally Challenge. Right now, with how he's looking tonight and what he was able to put together in the first round of the playoffs, we could be looking potentially at a Final 4 contender. So well done to him, at least so far here in this postseason. Got strung out now. We were 3 wide all the way from the front to the middle of the pack, and now you can see we're single file amongst the top 5, double wide back to around the 13th position. Wiley Coate looking 3 wide a little bit further back, but nothing really all of that crazy going on. These drivers have all of a sudden kind of turned down the wick, settled in a little bit, and we may be heading into potentially a green flag run. And you saw on the recap from last week how green flag pit stops definitely played a major factor into the events of that Talladega race, that elimination race. Imagine what pit road could do here tonight and setting the stage for the next elimination race next week. I do not believe that where you finish in the points this season has any bearing on anything to do with next season. What a save by Joe DeSpirito there through the tri-oval. That could have been really bad. I don't know if he got an errant bump or if he just got loose, but that thing was all sorts of sideways and almost down the passenger side door of Jessica Shelton and Terry Bombard's trucks. But I don't think that there's any bearing on where you finish this season into anything to do with season 60, but I mentioned about the fact that drivers that are already eliminated, they're just looking for victories. There is the possibility as well, though, and this does happen in playoff formats where the group that you get eliminated with, you want to, by season's end, be above all of them at the conclusion of the year. So you look at someone like a Tim Knopfsker, he wants to make sure that he finishes out the season in ninth in points. Didn't make it in round of 8, but he wants to finish ninth, which is the maximum that he possibly can finish, the highest he possibly can finish. He wants to make sure he finishes there, as JT Mayhew, Donnie Garrett, Chuck McClure, Kelly Causey, and Josh Metallic. So the battle is still ongoing between those 6 drivers for ninth in points. And subsequently, at the conclusion of next week's race, when we end up coming back here to BSR in 2 weeks' time, the 4 drivers that get eliminated, they will be duking it out in the final 2 races of the season to see who ends up finishing 5th in overall points. So there is still a battle that goes on, even if there's not a championship necessarily in the balance, as Joe DeSpirito making a move there on Dave Melson. Melson went to throw the block, little late there. 24 was all ready to his left rear quarter panel, and Spirito will go back to the point. Nearing halfway through, let's take a look at our laps leaderboard. So far, Joe DeSpirito has led the most, 18 laps total. Tim Knopfsker, the only other driver that has reached double digits. He has led 10 laps. And then only other drivers that have led laps tonight have led single laps. And those are Grant Wesley, Terry Bombard, and Robbie Nices. So it has been the DeSpirito Knopfsker show, at least up at the front so far tonight in the first half of this race. And they are first and second on that inside line. Dave Melson trying to break into the lap-led category, and I think he got it. Corey says he did. So Dave Melson will be another driver that'll get a bonus point here tonight in that Wonder Bread Chevrolet. Let's give you an update on where your Elite 8 drivers last crossed the start-finish line. Highest of those would be Jeremy Jeffries. He was scored in 3rd last time by. Grant Wesley was 7th. Terry Bombard 12th. Roger Sullins 13th. Brian Schilling was 16th. Bob Seminara all the way down in 29th. And Bernie Mobbs right now last truck in the field in the 31st position, but I saw him just there. He was latched on to the tail end of the field. Might be riding. Bernie Mobbs was involved in the first and only caution up to this point tonight. He might have said right there, I dodged a bullet. I'm not going to tempt fate. I'm going to ride and wait. And maybe Bob Seminara might be doing the same, because he appears to be just kind of chilling at the tail end of the pack here also. Who might be of the estimation that we have not seen our last caution here tonight. Grant Wesley up on the top side. Whoa, I just saw Dave Nelson down there on the apron. He's still on the apron. He was the leader. Oh, he's coming to pit road, as is Bob Dixon. Whoa, whoa, whoa. No, he's not coming to pit road. What is going on with the 038? He's in the grass, spinning onto pit road. Something is amiss. That was not normal. Something is wrong with the Wonder Bread Chevrolet. He was on the apron through 3 and 4, and we saw him just fly down through the infield grass. And I'm understanding that apparently his screen went blank. Boy, that could have really been bad. We are very lucky that nobody was involved. I'm assuming he's back under power, back in control, but that could have been catastrophic. And maybe a blessing that it happened when he was the leader, because imagine what would have happened if he had had cars all around him. Chris Emery's coming to pit road this time along with Jeff Crivello, so we are entering into green flag pit stops now. Means these drivers would be able to make it on one more pit stop should we stay green from now to the conclusion. Jeremy Jeffries, that was his first lap lead of the day, so a bonus point for that playoff contender. Dave Belson coming down pit road this time. I don't think that the 038 hit the commitment line. So he lost track position, but he wouldn't get a black flag for speeding on pit road because I don't think he was low enough to cross the commitment line. He went through the infield grass. That's at least a good thing for him. The question is, though, when everything cycles around, will he be on the lead lap still? Whoa, Mark Paglia going to get the inside wall. Has a big group coming down pit road, and they're stacking up back here 4 wide. Richard Martin's going to get clipped. And he's going to get turned around, and everybody else, I think, made it on safely. Boy, that was not a very good entry for the Motorcraft Ford of Mark Paglia. As not only did he pancake the left side into that Armco barrier, that was way before the safer barrier there, but he also got into the 43 of Richard Martin, who I believe was running up inside of the top 10 just prior to the pit stop. Kelly Causey looks like he's coming to pit road this time. In fact, everybody that remains is coming down pit road in this group. Grant Wesley, one of the most aggressive drivers, come to pit road, swung around the outside, and maybe that spot that he just picked up right there on pit road entry could be him maybe cycling out to the race lead. We'll have to see. There's Jeremy Jeffries and Tim Novsker and Joe DeSpirito leaving together. Glenn Harris and Jessica Shelton trying to latch on as best they can as well. Almost somewhat in shades of last week, a round of green flag pit stops, an incident that didn't necessarily bring out a caution. That's going to split the field, spread them out quite a bit. But I think it is going to be Jeremy Jeffries who's going to cycle out to the top position. We're waiting to see where that group with Grant Wesley is all going to cycle out. There they are. Where is the 88? There's the 88, and there is the 4. Oh, I don't think they're going to get up to speed in time. I think this trio is going to blow their doors off. They might be able to cycle into 4th and 5th by the time they get up to speed, but I don't think they're going to be able to hold off Jeremy Jeffries. Makes the move to the inside. No defensive move by Grant Wesley, and Jeffries will now officially move to the top spot. Novsker into 2nd, Joe DeSpirito into 3rd. Of those 3, the only one with a championship hanging in the balance in his future is Jeremy Jeffries. And oh yeah, by the way, if we haven't driven this home often enough, his 3 victories this season, every single one of them have taken place right here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. As a matter of fact, he has won 3 of the last 4 times we have come to this racetrack. Greg Palmer stopped the streak a couple of weeks ago in the first playoff race. But it is going to be Jeremy Jeffries, Tim Novsker, Joe DeSpirito, Grant Wesley, Brian Schilling, the top 5, as that's how it's going to cycle around. Bob Dixon out of the race. Ken Roberts having to serve a speeding penalty, and we'll try and see if we can document everything that transpired after this round of green flag pit stops right after this commercial break as we get a word from our sponsor, Ultimate Garage Floors. The following presentation of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series on the Flatout Racing Network is brought to you by Ultimate Garage Floors. Ultimate Garage Floors is very active in the garage remodeling community, staying current with the latest technologies and custom configurations so that we can bring you the highest quality installations. As a Northern Virginia exclusive flooring installer, we focus on garages and commercial flooring to perfect our craft and bring you high results. In a space that gets as much wear and tear as your garage, want to be able to trust that the cabinets and flooring we install are ready to withstand against high traffic and regular use. That is why we include a lifetime warranty with our services, so that you know we stand behind the quality of our work. To get started with a free consultation, call us at 540-931-9006 or visit us on the web at ultimategaragefloorsva.net. That's ultimategaragefloorsva.net. We welcome you back here to British Screwdrivers Raceway. Looks like we've got a total of 17, maybe 18 trucks that are now up in the lead pack after the cycle of green flag pit stops. A couple of things to take care of from when we went to that commercial break. Misspoke on the driver that retired from the race. Bob Dixon is still running. He is on the tail end of the lead lap and now about to go a lap down. There he is just ahead of the leaders. The car that retired out of the race was Mark Hagley, and he'll get credited for 31st. Also under that commercial break, Ken Roberts served the pass-through penalty for his black flag. He is one lap down in the 30th position right now, with Bob Dixon also going a lap down. Dixon and Roberts would be in the Lucky Dogs positions should we get a caution. Jeremy Jeffries continues to show the way. Tim Nosker in second, Joe DeSpirito in third, but then playoff contenders. The last two past champions, Grant Wesley and Brian Schilling, in the fourth and fifth positions. Sixth, Glenn Harris. Seventh for Craig Hagley. Eighth place right now, Kelly Causey. Ninth, Bob Seminara, and Chuck McClure is currently in the 10th position. Chris Emery's 11th, Rodney Sullivan's 12th, Doug Kulick's 13th, 14th place is where we find Donnie Garrett. Terry Bombard's 15th, JT Mayhew's 16th. Jessica Shelton is right now in 17th, and she's the last truck in this lead pack. He tried to hang on, but lost this group, was Josh Metallic, who's now back by his lonesome in the 18th position. It looks like the only driver right now of our Elite 8 that could be in a spot of bother heading into next week could be Bernie Mons. He is currently running 18, now 19 seconds behind the leaders in the 25th position. So if you're looking at a couple of drivers that we'll be highlighting next week in that elimination race at Talladega that maybe not necessarily are in a must-win situation, but certainly are going to have to dig themselves out of a deep hole with where they are currently positioned. It would have to be Bernie Mobs and Greg Palmer. Palmer, obviously, with not being in the field here this evening. And we've already seen a number of drivers that missed the first playoff race and were not able to get the win or the points necessary to advance. Back in the first round, Josh Metallic and Donnie Garrett and Kelly Causey were drivers that did not take part, were not able to be in that first playoff race. Jeremy Jeffries is trying to become the third driver in the field to reach double digits in laps led here tonight. That is his 9th lap led. Nosker's led 10. DeSpirito has led 18. Those three drivers are your current top three as things run right now. But as mentioned, we do have at least one more pit stop coming up, whether it be under green or whether it be under caution. With the group of trucks we've got up here right now in this lead pack, there is the possibility that there could be a caution. Remember last week when we showed you on that recap, we went 35 laps before the first caution of the day flew. We've only had one caution so far here tonight. That only involved 4 drivers, took 2 of them back to the garage area, involved one of our playoff contenders in Bernie Moz, but since then we have not seen the caution fly. Potentially, the money stop tonight could be under green flag conditions. And the drivers that you see up at the front of the field right now are the drivers that capitalized and maximized the most on the green flag pit stop cycle that we just had. So potentially, if it does come down to a green flag pit stop, these might be the drivers that you're looking at to contend for the checkered flag this evening. But I look back there at the 23 of Doug Kulik, who's second truck on that outside line behind Bob Seminara. And I think about also the fact that this particular racetrack, Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, has given us some very interesting finishes with the timing of yellow flags. Think all the way back to the first time that Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway debuted on the Tally Challenge schedule. Late caution came out. Doug Kulik had just finished up his pit stop. Came off of pit road, made a couple 100 feet trip to the start-finish line, picked up the caution as the race leader, and won the race under yellow. Depending on when that final pit stop is, and I did actually lose track of when they made their last pit stop, so I don't actually have a number in my head when they're going to have to make that pit stop and how many laps are left to go. But, I mean, dependent on when it is, would it maybe be in the vicinity of that point of no return where if something happens, maybe migrates back up onto the racetrack, we could see a little case of deja vu where a driver, right place, right time, right timing of the caution, could be able to pick up a, I wouldn't say an underdog win, but certainly a Cinderella story win, potentially. And some drivers that maybe fit that criteria back there just outside of the top 5. Glenn Harris in the number 8. Got a great run here tonight. He started 23rd, right now in 6th place. Up there inside of the top 10 for the latter half of this race. Right behind him, Craig Hagley. Saw him make his first couple of starts midway through last season. Very impressive performances and has been very good this year. A little inconsistent, but he's had some good runs. Kind of get the feeling that he's not too far from finding victory lane. Not too far behind them, you've got Terry Bombard there in the number 10. Trying to get his first win on the season. Congratulations to Terry's son, Mitch. Ended up getting a real victory. I don't know exactly what cars it is that they run. They're street stocks, but I might be wrong on that. My apologies if I'm incorrect on that, but picked up a checkered flag. Race win photo featured right on the homepage of RollingThunderGaming.com. If you want to check and follow along and see the stats that I'm looking at, the finishing results, not only here for the Tally Challenge, but for all the series that are run here under the Rolling Thunder Gaming banner, the Bare Bones Racing Series, the RTR Super Speedway Series, Aero 88 Series. Check them out, RollingThunderGaming.com. We're closing in on 15 to go here. Nobody really seeming to want to force the issue. There were about 3 or 4 drivers towards the back that thought about making something happen. I saw Jessica Schulten was up there, Seminara, Bombard, Hulick. And now it looks like they've all kind of given up on that second line, at least for the time being. Gonna make moves up at the front. Usually in a pack like this, you've got to have that run generated at the rear of the field. So I think they were getting started on that. But I think up here amongst your top 7, 8, 9, 10, they're not even thinking about a second line right now. They're just trying to get to that final pit stop. Looks like still 6 of our 8 playoff drivers up here in this lead pack. Bernie Mobbs still. Oh! Hit the wall. It's going to be Tim Knopfsker, and that's going to be a caution. Yellow flag is going to wave. Looked like an errant bump, maybe bumper grab, but Knopfsker goes around and is going to bring out the second caution of the night. JT Mayhew also involved as he spins down towards the pit wall. I believe it was just 2 trucks that were involved in that one. And this now means that fuel will no longer be a concern. These drivers will be able to hit pit road. They will be good to go on what they've got in the tank. Go back, take a look at what happened. like even Novsker was able to get going before a number of the stragglers got to him. Here's a look at it off of turn 4, and ooh, yeah, looks like a little bumper grab there. Doug Hewlett got a tiny piece. Ooh, look at Rodney Sullins just get through. One driver that the 088 did not make contact with was the 338 of JT Mayhew, so how was he involved in this? Saw him spinning down through the infield grass. They end up just losing it. Nobody behind him. Let's see. Yeah. Truck just came out from underneath him there. And he's going to get back into the throttle, and no damage, no contact. Whose pit stall was that he almost slid directly into? That would have probably been Chris Emery's stall. He would have had the number 2 stall because he qualified second. Pit road is obviously a very busy place, and it looks like Jeremy Jeffries might have had a rather slow pit stop because a lot of drivers just leapfrogged him, including Joe DeSpirito, who had had the number 3 pit stall. Grant Wesley came out second, Brian Schilling third, Ellie Causey and Craig Hagley the top 5, then Seminary, Garrett. Jeffries comes out in 8th with Harris and Emery going to be, looks like, the top 10. That caution was a big break for a lot of drivers that were able to stay on the lead lap as a result. And I believe that Bob Dixon and Ken Roberts were the only trucks a lap down. They will get the lucky dogs. The all remaining 30 drivers will be on the lead lap when we go back green. Restart will be somewhere in the vicinity of 10-11 laps to go. Joe DeSpirito, who has led the most laps, but not by much. Jeffries made it close there on that last run. 16 laps led for him, 18 laps led, the race high so far for Joe DeSpirito. Looks like he'll be the one that will lead us to green as soon as that pace truck gives us the indication. We're going to step aside for another commercial break and another word from Ultimate Garage Floors, and we'll bring you back here to the restart from BSR. Following presentation of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series on the Flatout Racing Network is brought to you by Ultimate Garage Floors. Ultimate Garage Floors is very active in the garage remodeling community, staying current with the latest technologies and custom configurations so that we can bring you the highest quality installations. As a Northern Virginia Exposy flooring installer, we focus on garages and commercial flooring to perfect our craft and bring you high results. In a space that gets as much wear and tear as your garage, you want to be able to trust that the cabinets and flooring we install are ready to withstand against high traffic and regular use. That is why we include a lifetime warranty with our services so that you know we stand behind the quality of our work. To get started with a free consultation, call us at 540-931-9006 or visit us on the web at ultimategaragefloorsva.net. That's ultimategaragefloorsva.net. See the lights out at top, the Flatout Racing Network Chevy Silverado pace truck. Getting ready to go back green flag racing with what will be 11 laps to go. And Roberts and Bob Dixon on our side-by-side, going around, getting the lucky dogs. All 30 trucks will be on the lead lap here for this 11-lap dash. Joe DeSpirito, the race leader. Grant Wesley, the highest running playoff driver, will be to his outside in second. Brian Schilling, another playoff contender, will be third. Kelly Causey in fourth. Greg Hagley will complete the top five. Bob Seminara, playoff driver, in sixth. Connie Garrett, seventh. Another playoff contender, Jeremy Jeffries, in eighth. And Glenn Harris and Chris Emery going to complete the top 10. 4 playoff contenders inside of the top 10 here for this restart. We haven't talked about Bobby Farrell all night long. And how about that U.S. Air Force Ford F-Series? Going to restart up there in the 11th spot. Doug Hewlick won the very first race here at BSR. Is going to restart in 12th. Jessica Shelton in 13th. Gary Bombard, playoff driver, in 14th. Another playoff driver right behind him, Rodney Sullins, in the 15th position. Jeff Crivello will restart 16th. JT Mayhew in 17th. 18th place will be Richard Martin. That caution really helped him after he had the contact on pit road. Josh Metallic will be 19th, and Jerm Lewis will be the top 20 as we get ready to go back green. Bernie Mobbs, the other playoff driver we didn't mention, he's restarting in 23rd place. Green flag set to come back out. An eye on Tim Knopfsker in the 088. How much damage did he sustain when he nosed up into the outside wall for our most recent caution of the evening? Is he up to speed? As DeSpirito going to lead them into turn number 1. Big push there from Brian Schilling. Grant Wesley, a little bit of daylight between his back bumper and the front bumper of Kelly Causey. Now Causey starting to catch up here, but don't know if it's going to be too late. DeSpirito's already clear for the top position. If he sees that middle line getting a run, he may try to move up and block. He doesn't. Wesley's going to draw alongside. A little movement right there on the inside line with DeSpirito, Schilling, and Hagley. 3 wide further back. Robbie Nices saw him jump up to the top. Ronnie Sullins is up there. Richard Martin's up there as well. I believe that's Jerm Lewis that's also up there. Third truck in that line. And laps to go here at BSR. Remember, for the 7 playoff drivers in the field, a victory tonight means you are going to be in the Final Four. No questions asked. You can afford to not even show up next week if you wanted to. You will battle for the championship in that final 2-race final round. But if a non-playoff driver goes to victory lane here tonight, and there's a lot of them up here towards the front, and it comes down to next week, more than likely, who the top 4 in points are going to be, unless somebody's able to pull out a last-minute victory at Talladega. Can't get that checkered flag tonight. You want as many points as you can possibly get. If you're running 3rd, you want 2nd. If you're running 5th, you want 4th. If you're running 13th, you want 12th. Every point, every position matters. Jeremy Jeffries leading the outside line. We may be saying it for the 3rd time tonight, potentially be saying 3 wide for the lead. And that's exactly what we're going to say. DeSpirito on the bottom, Wesley in the middle, Jeremy Jeffries high, wide, and hits him for the top position. You've got 5, make it 6 playoff drivers. Throw a blanket over them up inside of your top 8 right now. Inside line, got the momentum through the tri-oval. DeSpirito hanging tough. I think right now he's just going to hug that yellow line and let whatever happens, happens in those 2nd and 3rd grooves. And it's worked out for him as well. There's been a couple of times that he's been challenged for the lead 3 wide, and the line that he's chosen, the inside line, has been the one that prevails. There you see Grant Wesley kind of throw up the white flag of surrender. He jumps down to the inside line in front of Glenn Harris. As both 2nd and 3rd lanes were starting to fall back. They've gotten up alongside for the lead. and then the 3 wide went back to around the 4th, 5th position. This goes back to kind of my perplexed thought process earlier on. I don't know what it is that stalls out those lanes the way it does. They get such momentum, and then all of a sudden it's just like they flip a switch, and it dies. I don't know if there's too much movement through the corner. I don't know if they need to shove rather than keep a tight draft. Maybe the drivers themselves don't even know. Maybe it's an anomaly for them. Spirito still looking for that first checkered flag of season 59. He has led the most laps here tonight. It looks like now, based off of scoring, he will get the bonus point for most laps led. Nobody's going to be able to surpass him. Even if Nofsker led from here to the checkered flag, he would be 1 lap short of beating the current 24 laps that Despirito has led, and he's about to lead a 25th right here. But Despirito looking to close out the deal, trying to get that first checkered flag here of the season. Right behind him, Brian Schilling. He has finished bridesmaid quite a number of times, has finished up in the podium quite a number of times here this season. He is also looking for his first checkered flag on the year. Twice he has finished second, and 5 times he has finished up inside of the podium as Brian Schilling, champion from a couple of seasons back. One of the most consistent drivers during the regular season. Really the closest competitor Grant Wesley had for the regular season championship as well. Then right behind him, you got Craig Hagley in the 32. He's looking for the first win of his Tally Challenge career. Could tonight be the night? Craig Hagley, we've spoken with him recently when he had a podium finish. It was back on the 6th of July, right here at BSR. He's had 3 finishes inside the podium here this season, including a runner-up finish back at Talladega around the midway portion of the regular season. Here comes the outside line, though. Jeremy Jeffries and Jessica Shelton leading that second lane. They've got Jerm Lewis up there. Correction, that's Chris Emery up there. Kelly Causey, Rodney Sullins, now add Doug Hewlick. It's time to go as we're at the point of no return here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Time to give the usual disclaimer. We will stay up here at the front of the field regardless of whether we're under green or under caution. We will watch them race back to either the caution or the checkered flag. We will look at any necessary post-race incidents during the caution period or at the end of the race, but we will stay up here at the front as that time through 1 and 2, Richard Martin and Chuck McClure both nearly put each other into the wall. There's a third line starting to form. Hewlick jumps up to the top. Terry Bombard jumps up there as well. We may be 3 wide for the lead again tonight here in the closing stages if they can get something going in lane number 3. But at the front, Despirito continues to hold out half a truck length over Jeremy Jeffries. He's got a bumper full of Jessica Shelton. Here comes the 3 wide move. It was Kelly Causey who jumped up there. Emery tried to get up in front, couldn't do it. Can Kelly Causey join Jeremy Jeffries as a 3-time winner on the season? They're trying up there in that 3rd line. You just kind of feel like this is the calm before the storm. Shelton jumps up to the 3rd line. She's going to try and take Jeffries 3 wide, Brian Schilling. She's looking for the top position. Gonna be 2 to go next time by. I don't know if they're gonna make it. I think you're gonna see something catastrophic happen here. They're racing hard, they are racing close. There's not a lot of room being given. Now Donnie Garrett's gonna move to the middle line. That's gonna give the top 3 a little bit of clearance, at least for the time being. They're 3 wide for the 4th spot with Shelton, Garrett, and Wesley. 2 to go. Now can they make another 2.66 miles back to the white flag? There were 4 wide for a brief moment near the rear of the field around Jeff Crivello and Ken Roberts, but they then settled it out quickly, fortunately, back out to 3 wide. Brian Schilling, he's a playoff driver. He's got a car between him and the next playoff driver of Grant Wesley. How aggressive is he going to be with Joe Despirito here? Your top 3 are all looking for their first win on the season. 4 of your top 5 have not been to victory lane. There is Glenn Harris. And where did Bernie Mobbs come from? Involved in the first caution of the night. He was running the lowest of the playoff drivers all race long. He's now up to 6th as the white flag is in the air for Joe DeSpirito. If Schilling goes, does anybody go with him? How long does he wait? Does he wait till the back straightaway? Does he wait till all the way off of turn 4? DeSpirito's going to hug that yellow line. It's been his best friend all night long. Terry Bombard gets shuffled up. Not going to be a great points night for him. Hagley shows the nose to the inside. He's there. He's to the inside of Brian Schilling. What a move. Just enough room for a truck. And Hagley made it stick. Now he might be clear of Schilling off the board. Can Craig Hagley make a move for the win? Does he go top? He's going to look up to the outside. DeSpirito throws the block. Here comes Schilling with a run with help from Donnie Garrett. DeSpirito, I think, has got it, though. He's got him stacked up behind his Jeffries. It's up into the wall. Caution's going to fly along with the checkered, but the checkered flag will belong to Joe DeSpirito here tonight. His first win of season 59, and it takes place here in the 3rd playoff race, race number 12 on the season. 28 laps led for the former multi-time champion. And Joe DeSpirito, who started this race from 3rd place, stayed up front all night long, finishes up front, and closes it out with the victory. Big wreck coming back to the start-finish line. Jeremy Jeffries, one of our playoff drivers, was involved. Also saw Ken Roberts up and into the outside wall as well. Little bump there from teammate Bob Seminara. Martin pulls alongside. And for the first time this year, the 24 is going to be doing some burnouts here at BSR. Oh, don't scratch the paint on that Chevy Silverado. Talking about the pace car, that is. I think the paint's already scratched on the 24. He got a little bump into the outside wall when Seminara came by for congratulations. As Joe DeSpirito getting ready to burn it down here at BSR. And with everything that took place, a couple of playoff drivers that did not end the way they were planning. Saw Terry Bombard get shuffled out in the back straightaway. He finishes 21st. And Jeremy Jeffries is going to finish in 27th. We'll take a look at the full finishing results in just a few moments. But first, let's go back and take a look at a replay. What happened there on that final lap coming to the checkered flag. Let's take it all the way back to turn 4. Actually, let's take it all the way back to the back straightaway, because at first I thought that Craig Hagley might have actually gone below the yellow line to advance his position, but you will clearly see here that there was just enough space for a truck to fit, and Craig Hagley made it work. Look at this. Watch the tires. They're on the yellow line, but they never go below it. That was a perfectly legal pass for Craig Hagley, and that was a gutsy pass as well. Normally, if you have just that little amount of space, you don't make that move, because if you do, you're probably going to end up going below the yellow line and getting penalized. Oh, there was what happened. Looked like maybe some bumper grab between Donnie Garrett and Jeremy Jeffries sends him down to Glenn Harris. And just all that loss of momentum with the spin for Jeremy Jeffries has him slide across the line in the 27th position. We'll take another look at it here. Jeff Crivello and Brian Rawson also slid across the line, but they, I think, had already surpassed the stripe. Oh yeah, definitely some bumper grab right there. The 77 was coming down. Chris Emery also was involved, and then it looks like Ken Roberts maybe got hooked off the nose of Brian Rawson. That's what set Rawson up into Jeff Crivello. Tough break there for Jeremy Jeffries, though. Yes, he made the race here tonight, but 27th out of 33 drivers. That's not a lot of points he's going to gain. Fortunately, he is going to have the bonus point for leading 16 laps here tonight. that may help. Every position counts, but not the finish that he was looking for. He had crossed the line up in the, I believe it was the 7th position, it was around 6th or 7th coming out of turn number 4. That is just the blessing and the curse of super speedway racing. And the curse hit Jeremy Jeffries in the final stint here. So Despirito with the win. Craig Hagley, 61 1,000ths of a second in second place. His 4th podium finish on the year. Brian Schilling, another podium finish for him as he'll finish in 3rd. He was the highest finishing playoff contender. Grant Wesley right behind him in 4th, and Donnie Garrett brings it home in 5th. Glenn Harrison 6th. Comeback of the race has to be Bernie Mobbs. Bernie Mobbs was involved in the first caution of the evening, ran at the back pretty much the entirety of the race. He was in, I think it was the 26th or 7th position, 30 seconds behind the leader at one point. In danger, if we had stayed green, of probably finishing this race off the lead lap. And somehow that car comes back to finish in 7th place. Seminara was another driver that kind of hung at the back along with Bernie Mobbs for a stint of that race, and he's going to get 8th. Doug Kulik in 9th, and Kelly Causey's going to complete the top 10. Last week's winner, Rodney Sullins, brings it home in 11th. Martin Cy Jones, Bob Dixon, and Dave Melson, the top 15. And then there you see further on down, Terry Bombard 21st, and Jeremy Jeffries in 27th. 2 are playoff drivers that did not get the runs they were looking for here tonight. Not sure what happened with Bobby Farrell in the 92. He finishes 2 laps down, and he restarted on that last restart just outside of the top 10. He was 11th on that restart. But that must have been something untoward that happened in the closing stages to him. We just didn't catch it. And then drivers that did not reach the conclusion, JT Mayhew, Mark Paglia, Jim Glaude, and Mike Rogers. After we had 3 cautions during the course of this race, of course, the 3rd and final caution taking place on the final lap in the Tri-Oval. As you saw your official finishing results, we now head into our FRN post-race wind-down and get ready to talk to some of our podium finishers here this evening. One of them a playoff contender, the other 2 bringing home another podium finish for Hagley and first win of the season for Joe Despirito down in Victory Lane. Let's see if we can start things off with the guy that brings home P3, Brian Schilling. Hey, Brian, it's Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got a copy?
Yay, what's going on?
I'll tell you what, these opening races for the rounds of the playoffs, they always seem to maybe be even a little bit more aggressive than the elimination races themselves. I don't know if there's the desperation of getting that golden ticket in the next round or what, but we kind of saw you here tonight kind of adopt the ride strategy in the early going, riding around the mid-pack area before we got to that cycle green flag pit stops. But, man, you seem to be really, really one of the drivers that can attack on green flag pit stops here. Has gained a lot of track position and then stayed up inside the top 5 for the entirety of the final run to the checkered flag. But the big thing that's kind of weighing on my mind, the big question is, this final run, this final lap, you're running up there. You got a shot to maybe win this thing. You're up inside of the top 3. You were second off of turn 2 on that final lap. How difficult is it when you're in the position as a playoff driver to kind of weigh the pros and cons of every potential move you can make? If it works out, you've got that automatic Final Four spot. But if it doesn't work out, there's a lot of spots still there that can be lost and a lot of points that can be left on the table at the conclusion.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a fine balance. If things would have fallen a little different, at the end, I was trying to figure out to make a move on the front stretch. That way, if it worked, great. If not, I lost maybe a couple spots. Problem is making a move on the back stretch. I experienced it a few races back. I lost 10 plus spots. So I knew not to do that this time. Wait to make a move.
The highest finisher of the 8 remaining playoff drivers. Does this give you a little bit of breathing space, a little bit of an opportunity to relax next week going into Talladega, or are you not even going to let yourself have that little bit of relaxation? Do you just kind of maybe put yourself in a scenario of, I'm currently in a position where I could still fall outside of the top 4. I got to continue the consistency.
Yeah, pretty much. The second half of that, it's you can never just sit back and relax. I mean, you still gotta you can race a little more cautious, but you can't get complacent. When you do that, that's, you can make a mistake, put yourself in a bad position. So, like tonight, I just looked at it to keep myself in good spots, safe spots where if there was a wreck, I could get out of it, and just got a little bit off pit strategy. That's where I gained a lot of my time. Everybody pitted on that one lap, and about maybe 10 of us went the following lap.
We talked with Rodney Sullins, last week's winner, during one of our caution breaks. You're the only playoff driver that finishes up inside the podium tonight. So I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked him. Do you find it easier or do you find it more difficult as the playoff grid is whittled down from, the 14 now to the 8 to the 4? Do you find it easier or harder to be able to keep an eye on where the rest of your competition is for the championship?
I don't necessarily look at that. The only time that it concerns me on who's left is who's leading at that point, because that's the ticket, to the next round. Otherwise, I can't control where they are. I can just control what I do. So, maximize points and, hope that I'm in a good spot at the end of the race, taking the checkered.
Well, we've talked about how consistent you've been this season. You just mentioned about maximizing points. That's how you maximize points, with the consistency. Another podium finish for you here this season. Again, the highest finishing of the playoff drivers. I believe that you are more than likely going to be the points leader of the playoffs heading into that elimination race next week. So best of luck with that as you'll look to advance into the Final Four, look to get your second championship in 3 seasons. And before we let you go, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
All right. Thank you, Joe DeSpirito, and congrats. Stuck with me on the last restart there on the low line. Like I said, I was going to stick with them until maybe till the end. Might have tried to make a move late, but either way, good win. Thank you to you for putting this on, Seth. Always a great show. Look forward to watching it here in a little while. Thank you to Josh, Tim, Wiley, Jason Shack, David Cannon, Sean Prime. Be great to see Sean back here soon. Hopefully, you're able to watch it. Get your internet going here soon. So, but yeah, thank you everybody for showing up.
Brian Schilling brings it home 3rd place here tonight, and he'll look to close out the deal and advance the 4 into the Final Four next week at Talladega. Best of luck then, and congrats on a great performance tonight, Brian.
Thank you.
Let's see if we can dial up our 3rd place finisher here tonight, or my correction, 2nd place finisher here tonight, and that is Craig Hagley. Hey, Craig, it's Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
Hey, what's going on, man?
I'll tell you what, I don't know what it is, but last couple of times we've seen this 32 truck on track, you have been right there in the conversation for the checkered flag. We obviously were not able to cover Talladega last week, but if we go back 2 weeks ago, back here at BSR, you were fighting for the win there as well. I mean, this 32 truck has seemed to come alive up there trying to get that checkered flag. You've been so close. What little more do you need here tonight to be able to close out the deal?
I was giving it everything I had right there at the end. I seen that spot open up to the inside just a little bit, and that checkered flag started flashing in my eyes, and I had to go for it.
Yeah, we actually documented about that move on the back straightaway. A lot of drivers wouldn't have the guts to make that move there. Just enough space for a truck. You run the risk of maybe having those Goodyear tires go below the yellow line. I mean, did you know as soon as you made the move that you were going to be able to stay up above and avoid a penalty, or were you kind of a little hesitant, wondering, is there just enough room for me to be able to fit there?
I was hesitant for sure. I was watching real close, and if he started to come back down, I was going to start backing out of it, because I kind of did that to Grant several weeks ago, and I didn't want to make a bad situation like I did then.
Now, obviously, as we mentioned, the last couple of times we've been here at BSR, you've been up there inside of the podium, close to getting that checkered flag. Anything you've been able to take away from those last couple of races that, maybe when we go to Talladega next week, or even when we come back here to BSR in 2 weeks' time, that maybe you can do something just slightly a little bit different to finally be able to get that number 32 as the first one back to the stripe?
I was just trying to keep the same patience and knowing when to race hard and who to race around and everything. A lot of it's just luck and being in the right place at the right time.
Well, a very impressive run here tonight, bringing it home for your 4th podium on the season, second place finish here this season as well, and second podium finish in the last 3 weeks. Definitely been on a tear here down this home stretch. Congratulations, Craig, on the great run here tonight. Before we let you go, though, we're going to give you the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
Just shout out to my son Lane and Jeff and everybody over at Talladega Nights and all my teammates. And Palmer, we missed seeing you out here tonight. Looks forward to seeing you next weekend.
Craig Hagley, second place this evening under the lights at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Another great run for the 32 Tech. Congratulations on the run, and best of luck next week. Hoping you can keep the consistency going at Dega.
Thanks, Seth. Have a good night.
And let's go down to victory lane. Let's see if we can dial up the driver, the number 24, Joe DeSpirito. Hey, Joe, it's Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got me?
I got you, Seth. How you doing, man?
I'll tell you what, this has been quite an interesting season for you. I documented how in the early portion of the season when we were getting the full field, you were right down around that cut line, just barely pointing your way into the grid, almost having to go into knockout queue. You've been slowly, steadily, consistently working your way up through the point standings. Came into tonight the highest of the drivers that were not able to advance into the playoffs, and you finally get that cherry on top. Finally get that checkered flag that's been eluding you all season long. I mean, how good does it feel?
Oh yeah, it feels good, man. To get that, that monkey off the back, keep the streak alive with another win in each season. But yeah, I made the playoffs, and then I missed the playoffs on the last race with some internet connection problems. So I'd like to thank Spectrum on that one. But yeah, man, I was racing loose tonight, and it worked out.
Led 28 laps here tonight. I don't think there was really a point in the race when you fell outside of the top 5. Now, obviously, some good starting track position, a good pit stall there, rolling off the grid in 3rd place. But, I mean, this truck was strong. You never fell towards the back. I mean, what was the deciding factor, do you think, that kept you up there the entire race and was able to hold them off there in the closing stages?
Well, just not being in the playoffs just kind of helped me. I had no fear. I was making moves that I may not have made if I was in the playoffs. I was jumping lanes, not doing too much blocking, but just making moves to try to pass people. And as Dale Jr. said, just try to get to the front on every lap, and that's what I was doing. And yeah, it worked out.
You got to the front and you stayed at the front. There were a couple of times where you were taken 3 wide. It seemed like you were very committed to that inside line. I don't know if you would know exactly, but you might be able to weigh in on this since you were able to choose the line that ended up vaulting forward in those 3 wide situations. But it kind of seemed like tonight, the middle line, the outside line, they could get momentum. They could get up to the front. And then all of a sudden, it just seemed like the momentum would die. And there was nothing that I could visibly see, at least from a spectator, third party point of view, that would lead to that loss of momentum. All of a sudden, the inside line with you leading it would surge back ahead. Was there anything you were able to observe from the cockpit of your truck that kind of led you to realize how you were able to hold off those lines that were advancing forward?
Well, yeah, people were making some moves that I guess you could call them a little unnecessary, I think. I mean, they're in the middle lane and they see the third lane coming, and then they'll go up to block the third lane, only to slow it down, then go back to the middle lane. I mean, that causes a lot of wrecks, and people need to be careful with that. But when that middle lane is not anywhere near that bottom lane, I mean, going third lane is kind of pointless. I was just talking to Schilling about this. It's like, I don't know, I think people just do it because they want to make a move and they kind of don't want to sit still anymore. And in the long run, all you're doing is dragging both the middle lane and the third lane backwards, and you're hurting yourself really. So there's a lot of patience involved, and you gotta figure where to be. And it just seemed like those 2 lanes just kept fighting each other, and the bottom lane ended up prevailing. You could just see that third lane growing all the time, and so I stayed low.
All right, so you talked about it, not having to deal with the pressure of a championship looming over your head, able to race a little bit more aggressively. So, What do you think? That's the last time we see the 24 in victory lane. You got a couple handful of races still left before the end of the season.
Well, we'll see. I'll be racing loose again, man. Next 2 races or 3 races, whatever it is. And I got the bracket series coming up, so I'm not sure who I'm facing in that, but that'll be fun. That'll give me something to race for too. But yeah, man, I was just loose tonight, pushing hard. There was one point in the race where it seemed like some of the leaders were saving fuel, and that's what caused that incident between me and another driver there. It seemed like there was a little bit of a checkup with fuel conservation and lane movement, and Tim spun out there after we touched. But other than that, man, I was just pushing hard and picking the right lane. That's it, man.
Well, he finally breaks back into victory lane, as he says, keeps the streak alive of at least at 1 trip to victory lane, and does it here tonight in race number 12 at BSR. Joe DeSpirito, congratulations on the victory. Before we let you go, the floor is yours for victory lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Thanks, Seth. I want to thank RTG, of course. Best league to racing, man. RTG Thursday nights. I want to thank Josh and the admins for putting this on. You guys, FRN, Seth, I appreciate you guys putting this on every Thursday night for us. I got to thank Mobs Motors. Thank my sponsors, Old City Fly Shop out of St. Augustine, Florida. And I want to thank my usual viewers, my dad, Uncle T, LC, Dan, and everybody at work watching. And yeah, I appreciate it, Seth. Thanks, brother.
Well, tonight belongs to the number 24 truck, Joe DeSpirito, in victory lane this evening at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Congratulations once again on the victory. Go enjoy it, and we look forward to seeing you go right back to work next week at Dega.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks, man.
Joe DeSpirito picking up the victory. That will make him the 9th different winner on the season. And as a non-playoff driver going to victory lane, we go to the scenario we were talking about where for the 8 remaining playoff drivers next week, really the emphasis is going to be on points. Granted, you could win your way into the round of 4, but you're not that driver that goes to victory lane. 3 drivers at least are going to point their way into that final 4 battle for the final 2 races of the season. A couple of drivers have got some pretty deep holes to dig themselves out of. Terry Bombard, Jerry Jeffries did not get the finishes they were looking for here tonight. Greg Palmer did not make the start. So those are going to be maybe 75% of the drivers we'll be looking at next week that are not necessarily in a must-win situation, but they're definitely going to need something good to happen. Who's around that cut line? I would assume that more than likely it's going to be very close between Bob Seminara and Rodney Sullins maybe for that cut line area. So we'll see. We'll see how everything shakes out after all the points are accumulated and the midweek penalties are reviewed and whatnot. And we'll see what kind of a scenario we've got. Tentatively, Brian Schilling is leading the playoff standings heading into next week. Rodney Sullins is 2nd, Grant Wesley 3rd, Bob Seminara in 4th. Right now, he has 3 points over Bernie Mobbs in 5th. Jeremy Jeffries is 4 points back in 6th. Terry Bombard is 10 points back in 7th. And Greg Palmer right now is situated 27 points behind the cut line. With us having 33 trucks in the field here tonight, if we run around the same number next week, I think Palmer is going to more than likely be in a must-win situation. But he's a former winner this season from the first playoff race here at BSR, so we'll see what he's able to do when these trucks head to Talladega next week. Thank you all for tuning in to our coverage here tonight, though, from Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Hope that you guys enjoyed it. I've been Seth Cole, and you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network. We'll see you guys next week as the playoffs roll on in the RTG Talladega Challenge.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like